All right, all right, all right. Let's see. Audio, we got audio. Video, we got video. lights, cameras, plenty of action. Well, actually hardly any action, but yeah. As you can see, vMix released a new update for version 28. It's .21. Replay set timecode fix for missing previous segments. Good to know, because if you were missing previous segments, now your problem is fixed. All right, let's see, what else are we doing here? We're going here, and we're going here. Yeah, this is the 5th time on this build. I think I found the source of the problem. Yeah. So Rich is showing off his ability to put emojis in the chat. Love it. And you can just chat back and forth, you know, just kind of like text messaging, I guess. Nice thing is you can pick these out in any order you want to. So we could have said something like this: I'm going to mess trouble with this PC build. And then Rich says, I love it. When really he said, I have confidence you can build it. So there we go. We'll see. Yeah, it's an Obsidian build. It's you know, it's not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way. Not for the faint of heart. Like anything else, I remember the first time I built, did I say Obsidian? I meant Obtanium. I remember the first time I built an Obsidian system. It's a learning experience. It's the same general technology, but the specifics are different. And so not everything that is in the old memory bank of how things are supposed to work always applies. And I think the same is true of the Obtanium system, that there is a little bit of a learning curve. For those that are building their first PC and start out with an Obtanium, there's a huge learning curve. But I think this one is, this has been a lot of fun. It's been a little bit of a, what do you call it? A challenge, a nightmare, it tries your patience. The good thing is patience is a muscle. Everybody thinks, you know, oh yeah, you know, Lord, give me more patience. Don't ever pray that. Patience is a muscle. It gets bigger and stronger by being exercised. And how do you exercise patience? With stuff that happens that you have to be patient about. So yeah, there's my lesson for the day. Don't ever pray for patience. Only pray for guidance. Well, actually, you pray for all sorts of stuff, but don't ever pray for patience. Or you might get in opportunities where you can get it. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But it's fun. It's fun. This, I'll give you a little hint. This huge mama jama is the CPU that has been at the core of all of our problems, I think. We'll see. We'll see. Yep. It's a good life. It's a good life. So behind me here, sorry, that is, well, I shouldn't. Shall we just go ahead and start the show? It would be just a few minutes early, but we could do that. And then all the people that came on time would be late. Let's do that. Let's do that. That'll be fun. Okay, hold on a second here. We're going to go here. And then, let's see, hold on a second. I don't think. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, sit tight. Here we go. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Welcome to Streaming Idiots. I'm Tom Sinclair. The reason I know that is because it's like wearing a name badge around your neck, but it's a good thing. Jasper, welcome. Rich, welcome. Glad to all of you that showed up early because we started early today. So yeah, we're a minute and a half early, depending on who you are and where you are. But I'm really excited about this show. This show, as you may have noticed in the title, is our fifth in what was supposed to only be a two-part series. Our fifth part in the Obtanium build, the new vMix reference system build for up to 24 HD cameras or 6 4K cameras, including instant replay. So this is a big monster beast. It is the successor to the Obsidian PC. The Obsidian PC was based on the X299 chipset and used the Intel i9. I mean, you could use any of them, but it was the 10980 SXE or something like that. I think I've got one right over here. I'm working on. Had a different problem. The CPU is just fine. But it was antique technology, and the piece parts, the motherboards and the CPUs were becoming more difficult to find and more expensive when you can find them. So vMix went to work and came up with a new reference system that they spent a lot of time on and probably a lot of money buying piece parts that worked or didn't work, as the case may be. And so they published the reference system, and yeah, that's what we're building. We're building the reference system for the Obtanium. But we're building two of them. And the problem that we ran into right off the bat is one of them worked and one of them didn't. Well, actually, neither one of them worked. And just a little history here. We were using Windows 11 Pro version 24H2, which is what you would get if you went to Microsoft and said, hey, give me Windows 11 Pro right now. You'd get 24H2. But the Gigabyte motherboards that vMix spec'd, at least on our end, didn't work with 24H2. Once you installed the driver for the video card, that is the NVIDIA graphics card driver, the system was unstable and wouldn't boot. Only when you went into recovery and could go back and do a system restore back to a point before that driver was installed would Windows run again. So really it's a Windows 11 problem, but it shows up on this Gigaboard motherboard. And fortunately the folks at Gigabyte, did I say Gigaboard? Anyway, fortunately the folks at Gigabyte sent me a link to a version 23H2, which would run the graphics driver, and that indeed proved to be right on one of the two PCs. The second one, that was the solution, just took off like a shot, no problems. The first one, still having issues. And I thought, well, I've just got a bad motherboard. So I went out to eBay and I bought this motherboard back here. Let's see if we got a shot of it. Yeah, there's the shot of it right there. And that motherboard is a ASUS Pro WS W970E Sage SE, long name, but it's essentially a workstation motherboard. And let's see if we can do a little zoom in on it here. I mean, it's just a motherboard. How cool is that to look at? And it has, whoops, sorry, I'm getting a little jumpy with the graphics here. It has, whoa, yeah, that's that is Well, never mind. We'll talk about that problem later. Anyway, different problem for a different day. But the ASUS Sage motherboard, the workstation motherboard, the W790E Sage SE. By the way, it's a Pro WS. Anyway, it had the same symptoms. It would get into this restart loop where it wouldn't restart and do Windows. And that's when I was like, oh, I don't have a motherboard problem anymore. Duh. Let's go back to our typical good old-fashioned tried and true troubleshooting techniques, which is, we'll keep replacing piece parts until we get the right one. And I have now replaced the motherboard, and the problem didn't go away. Now, I was on Windows 11/24H2, and I said, what do I do? So, since I'm building two systems, I can steal parts from the other one. And the first thing I did was steal the RAM from the other one. Booted, took this one down, unplugged it, got all the power off, swapped the RAM over, powered it back up. Same problem. Still, it would get into a loop. And eventually it would bring me back to the point where I could either launch the PC or do troubleshooting. And so I said, okay, it's not the RAM. Said, what about, what do I have left? I've tried a different video card. I've tried different RAM now. I've tried a different motherboard. Problem still persists. I haven't tried a different power supply. And since it was kind of in a power cycle loop, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's power supply. There is a SSD in there, but I don't think that's going to be the issue. But I can try replacing it. It's not hard to do. And then the last thing is the CPU. What can I, can I put a new CPU in? Of course, well, of course I can put a new CPU in. And the interesting thing about the way this CPU system operates, do I have one close by? Hang on a second. Let me go get it. Don't go anywhere. I've got my mic with me so I can keep talking to you. But I'm going to the other side of the studio and picking up a piece part that we don't want to drop. But this is actually the liquid cooler for this CPU. It's a big three, what are those, 140 or 120 fans with pump built in. And this is the plate that goes on top of the CPU, but actually the CPU mounts to this plate. So I could take the cooler and the CPU from the other system, which is this one right now. No, actually not. I'm using it right over here. Anyway, I could take the CPU and the cooler from the other system and put that in this system and see if that solved all my problems. And it was certainly easier than doing a new power supply. The solid state drive, the M.2 NVMe, would have been the simplest, but I thought that was the least likely. So I said, let's go ahead and do the CPU, the most expensive piece in this whole beast. And as you can see, it's CPU. Now, this is still on the ASUS motherboard. So what I'd like to do to kind of, definitely confirm what we've done is to power this guy down, go over to the workbench, and rebuild the Gigabyte motherboard from all the what do you call this? Come on, Tom. From all the piece parts. Okay, let's see. We're having some trouble here trying to do this this other camera, but he's having a little bit of a hard time. So we will just not worry about that. Hold on, I'm trying a few things here, see if I can get this camera back. I'm not sure what's happening to it. it won't zoom, and it won't focus. And that's bad news for a camera when it won't zoom or it won't focus. Anyway, okay, well, we'll just stay with this shot. So, in fact, we can zoom this shot. How about that? We'll zoom this shot a little bit. Let me get into that camera there. Yep, and we'll just we'll zoom it in a little bit. There we go, and get me out of the way. And so what we want to do is we just basically power this down, take it apart, and we'll go over to the other part of the studio. And I hate to power it down because it's working so beautifully. But that's what happens when you have a CPU that does what it should. So we'll do a shutdown. And I could tell something was amiss first thing because the monitor will kind of go into a power reduced state when it doesn't get a signal. And that was flicking off and on and off and on and off and on and off and on. And just, you know, there's just no way. We'll turn off the power and unplug the power supply. There's no way that that is an acceptable behavior. I mean, a behavior that we would expect from something that was, you know, even if it's installing software or something, it's not going to power up, power down. It's not going to be that level of powering up and powering down. Okay, so let's disconnect all of our, that other camera was supposed to give you a better shot of this, but he's on the fritz. So interesting thing about this motherboard is it has a PCIe 8-pin power supply or power connector right on the motherboard that gives extra power to the video card, in addition to the 3 8-pin connectors that it gets normally. So nice to have all that power when you need it. We'll get these 2 8-pins right here, get those out of the way. We've got our fan disconnected, we've got our pump disconnected. We can get the video card out of the way. And what else have we got? We've got, that's it. So let's go, let's get this and its associated cables. Yeah, come on. Just one little cable can trip you up there. And we'll kind of put all that together. And then let me get this over to the other side, and then I'll switch you over there. Okay, so we'll get this here in the center of the table. And let's get our camera switched over there. And I think we've still got a shortcut that will do that. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. There we go. So let's take the keyboard and the mouse, and we'll go full screen so that we can see what's going on. Can't see what you guys are saying at the moment, but let's see. This will bring us around over here. There we go. And actually, I really didn't want to cut to that shot. I just wanted to move my camera. So I must have a little bit of a problem. I think, let's see, is one cut? Did I do a cut with that? Nope. Okay. Well, maybe spacebar is cut. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. There we go. There we go. Just trying to do it quick and dirty. And I'm kind of in the shadows. Let me adjust a little light around. Sorry for all the adjusting. It's just, you know, we're a budget operation. What can I say? Okay, so this is our ASUS board. And let's bring it over just a little bit. There we go. And it's a nice little board. We've got a M.2 here, here, and here, but these two are disabled with this particular CPU. It only runs that one right there. So these two slots are not available. If you use this motherboard and you use the vMix suggested W5 2565X Xeon CPU, these two guys right here will not work. Ask me how I know. Okay, so we want to pull the RAM out, and we do want to pull the M.2 out, and we want to pull the CPU out. So let's do the M.2 first. And we're just going to zip that little guy out. There we go. Come on. Come on. I think it's stuck. Yeah, there we go. It wasn't unscrewed all the way. It was just stuck. And we've got the little quick release there. And this is a 1 terabyte. Okay, so let's just go ahead and, well, let's put that back on, and then we'll put it over in the new motherboard so we don't have it out of the way where it can get in trouble. Get that all the way down. We bought this off of eBay as a test, so we'll probably keep it so that we can test other things in it in the future. If we end up getting a bigger Xeon, then we can use, whoops, dropped a screw. Don't want to do that. There it is. We get a bigger Xeon, it will enable the other slots for the other drives. And this guy's a little tricky. You have to kind of hold this down, and then this goes in this slot, and then both of these line up for the screw, which, again, the M.2 sometimes wants to kind of get away and slip out of its little slot. But we're wise to its tricks. Okay, so that's in. That one is, we'll tighten that one down so it doesn't go away anywhere. Let's go ahead and take some RAM out. As I'm evaluating the ASUS motherboard, I will say as a builder, this RAM is a pain in the tail to get in and out. The slot is just like, you know, a nanometer too small. And so it's really hard to get the RAM in and out. I mean, it's not a big deal. You do what you got to do. But in terms of ease of operation, that would be a criticism that I would have of this particular system. So let's go ahead and slot this back in our system here. And we've got to make sure that the slot matches up with the slots. And I think that slot right there is matching up with this slot right here. And we'll use the two inner ones on either side. This particular RAM slot has the levers on either side. So it's a little easier to, as you can see, I just popped that one in. And for comparison, let's put one of these back in over here. I think it goes that way. No, I was right the first time. So only one comes out. Those are fixed. And you have to kind of slot that one in and then get that one. Oh, but you can't slot it all the way down or it won't fit on this side. So now that we've got it in, we got it, and we've got it. It's just not as easy. And it's really stiff to come out. So let's go ahead and slip this in. The other one's over here, just slightly off camera. You can hear the clicks to tell you that it's in. And then, there we go, there we go. So we've got the drive out, we've got the RAM out. The only thing left in this board is the CPU. And we need a Torx T30. So if you're thinking about building, let me go get my Torx T30. If you're thinking about building this system, go ahead and get you a Torx set up front. You'll end up using it more than once. This is not a Torx T30 right here. It's a Torx 27, a T27, but it's going to work just as well. And we'll loosen them all just up a little bit. We're going to take the pressure off the motherboard. See, that's the Torx T27 there. Okay. And then you see these little wire clips here. They actually are kind of a retainer that retains this mechanism, this whole assembly right here. It clips it to the motherboard. So let's go ahead and unlock this guy all the way. And then we can unclip it. And if we've done it right, it should lift right off. There we go, it lifts right off. And there is our CPU. And of course, there's the socket. So let's gently hold on to this one, get it out of the way. We don't want to have the CPU go anywhere. The CPU is sort of pressed in there, and it's a friction fit. So not exactly my idea of a good way to secure a CPU, but obviously it shouldn't be going any place. I mean, it shouldn't travel any place like that. It should just go from point A to point B. Let's go ahead and get this little guy off. Make sure we don't have any debris on there. And slide our motherboard over. The first time we had this assembled, we had these guys on this side. And I think this is going to be a better spot. Now, again, it's just going to be the bottom of the CPU to the, is that a bent pin? Hang on a second here. Let's make sure we haven't caused ourselves an issue here. A little focus issue there. See if we can zoom in a little bit. What is zoom? I think 4 is zoom. No? Maybe 5? There we go. There we go. And what we're looking at is this little area right there. So excuse me, I'm just going to get in real close. I think that's just a little piece of fuzz. Yep, because it moved. Okay, we're good now. So let's go back out. There we go. And we'll get this guy positioned on there. Now we've got 4 studs here, 5 if you include me. 4 studs here that these little pins have to go on top of. And that's what one of the pins looks like. That one popped off, so we'll get him back on over there. Pop him back in. There we go. And then we want this thing to seat itself down there on the CPU. And then we can begin to crank it down again. Nope, that didn't. We're not seated yet. Maybe we are. Got to get a lot of pressure on this thing to get it to go down. Nope, that's not. We got something in the way here. Let's just try another one of these guys. Nope, it's not biting. Let's take it off and have a look. Okay, there's our CPU, and it's held in by a little clip here, a little clip here, a little clip there, and a little clip there. I mean, not much holding it in. And I don't see anything keeping it from its resting place. So let's just try again. That one popped out again. Let's take it all the way out and see what we see underneath it. Yeah, there's the rod. And that's threaded, so that should slip right in there like that. And begin to be tightened down right there. Let's do it by hand instead of by machine. Let's see, is it going to bite? Nope, it's not biting. So we've got something keeping us from sitting here. Yeah, I see a pretty good airspace there. So somehow we have not gone all the way down like we should. Well, we did change the orientation, but we didn't change it that much. Well, we changed it 180 degrees, but I don't think that would be it. Let's try it the other way and see if that makes a difference. It shouldn't make a difference, but it could. All right, this is the old way we had it. Look at that, just slips right down there. So let's go back off, go back around the other way. We know it'll go. We just don't know why it doesn't want to go this way. Everything looks good on the bottom. It's just a matter of getting the right angle. Somewhere there was an angle that, let's get the pressure off of this guy. Well, isn't that odd? Isn't that odd? Well, we'll just make this other way work. We'll just make that other way work. All right, so we're going to go on like this, and it all the way, it seats down there pretty quickly. And we'll get that little guy worked in there. He popped off a second ago. We're going to have to pull him back up to get him back on. There we go. Now we're in position. And we can, yeah, there we go. All right, now we can begin to really get it tight. It's been interesting to read on some forums about people that have tried this Obtanium build, and we're having all sorts of problems. I mean, you know, it was the first time for them and for me building, well, not first time building a workstation, but first time building this kind of workstation. And one of the problems apparently was that people would put the board on and would crank down on these screws, and they would get it, you know, quote unquote tight, but it really wasn't tight. It still had room to turn. And so I'm fully down now, and now I can give it a little eighth of a turn to make sure it's really firmly pressed into the socket. And that was the issue that the others were having, is the CPU just wasn't making good contact. Okay, so we're going to put our clips on, and our clips will be the other security. And that's probably why that got popped out, because its clip is a little cattywampus. Let's see if we can straighten him out just a little bit here. There we go. Yep. Well, we'll look at that. We will look at that. All right, so we've got the CPU back in, we've got the RAM in, we've got the M.2 in. Let's go ahead and take this back over and hook it up to power and see if we can't get this guy that wouldn't work properly before to come to life. And it'll take me just a second to grab all this stuff up and come back and get the keyboard and mouse, and we can see if this guy will fire up like he should have to begin with. So let's get that out of the way. Let's get that out of the way. And we'll come in with this. Be right with you. Sorry for the trouble. There we go. Okay, got that in place. And let's see if we can't get keyboard and mouse, and will allow us to get another good shot here. So we'll do that. There we go. There we go. All right, and so let's take a little bit more zoom on this. I'll get out of the shot and it should focus. It should focus. Come on, focus. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we have got our motherboard here. We're gonna have to get this guy out of the way, over to the side maybe, but close enough where his cables will still reach, because we've got a cable for the pump, and then we've got 3 cables, one for each fan going into a 3-way. And this is the CPU fan, so that's going to go right there. Yep, we're good with that one. And then there is one for the pump. Let's see if we can find that one. It's been a little while since we've been on this board. Well, come on. We'll have to go to the instructions and find the one for the pump. You know, I think it just went to, that's the difference between this board and that board, I think. Well, let me look at the diagram. One second. It's good to know, but it's also good to not guess. Well, one second. Let me get the instructions. Thought I had them in that box. There we go. Here we go. Okay, so this is the extensive instructions that you get with this motherboard. And what we're looking for is the CPU fan connector, and 2021 18 and 19. System fan connectors, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, that doesn't help. Let's go back and look on the cooler instructions. Let's see if the cooler can tell us where it wants to plug in. So here are our cooler instructions. This is the thinnest paper known to man. And it wants to plug into an AOI pump socket, which we don't happen to have. And if we don't happen to have it, then we're going to use a Molex adapter. Okay, got it. Molex adapter. And basically this adapter adapts from a typical fan pinout to a Molex pinout. And I had it right here, but I've obviously put it somewhere else. It's the little things that get you, you know? The little things. Let's see if I've set it to the side here. Not that one, not that one, not that one. Did I leave it on the Molex? Let's see what we got. There's Molex right there. So we'll keep that handy. But there is an adapter. Let me go back to the other desk. That's what happens when you work on more than one desk at a time, is you have things spread out more than you should. Yep, here it is. And basically what this does is there's the Molex side, there's the pin side. So we're going to plug in Molex here for power. Oops. Well, I thought we were plugging in Molex for power. Oh, sorry, wrong side of the Molex. It's got a male side and a female side. So let's go into the male side. We're good there. And then that's going to plug into the pump. And so the pump will run 100%, which is not bad. Okay, so we got the pump hooked up, we've got the fans hooked up. Now we can hook up power as we need it. So let's go ahead and get our big 24 pin plugged in. That plugs in right here. Should have had an overview shot for this one. Well, we could have moved this one over there, but the power supply was already over here. And then we've got a CPU. That's a PCIe, so I don't know that we're going to need that. Let's set it aside for a second. And we should have two CPUs over here. Yeah, there we go. Actually, two CPUs and the GPU. So we've got a CPU down here at the top of the motherboard, or the back, depending on your orientation. And a CPU down here in the front on the left, which has the clips on the wrong side or the other side. Whoever designed this board was left-handed. Okay, now we're going to put our GPU in. Well, that's another difference between these two motherboards, is the PCIe slots here on this Gigabyte board do not have locking tabs. That's the first time. We'll plug in the power for this guy. That's the first time I've ever seen a motherboard that didn't have locking tabs. I've seen some where the locking tabs have been broken off, some used boards, that kind of thing. but never any that didn't have any tabs at all. All right, so let's plug in a monitor. And we've got display port. And then we've got a USB hub here that I've got some things, including my wireless keyboard, plugged into. And so we have 3 USB ports, 3.0 ports or 3.1 ports, and then 1 of the small USB-C. All right, so we've got keyboard, we've got monitor, we've got power. We need to plug the power into power. And with this one, as I recall, when you turn it on, it starts, except it didn't do that this time. That's okay. We will, I heard a click. Let's go ahead and just jump the pins here to start it. Monitor's on. Okay, so the pump fans came on. The fans have come on here for the graphics card. The fan is on for the power supply. The ASUS board has the debug light, so it'll tell you whether it's what particular part of the booting cycle it's working on. This one does not have, it has 2 lights. One light's on all the time. The other light does a one long, one short flash. So you can't really tell where you are in the cycle. Now, the first thing that happens is the system is training the RAM. And that can take a little while, or it might not take any time at all. Once it's trained, it doesn't have to train it again unless you make some changes to the system, like pulling the RAM out or swapping it around, something like that. So right now, we're just sort of in a wait and see mode to wait and see what's going to happen. My recollection was originally with this board that it takes 2 or 3 minutes to boot, to post, rather. And once it posts, then after that it can boot into Windows if that's what you've got. So we're just waiting patiently. It's at this point in the process where I'm going, okay, what did I forget to do? I've got the monitor plugged in. I've got USB plugged in. I've got power, fan power, more power, and pump power. Oh, there we go. There's a Gigabyte. Let's see if we can get into the BIOS. And there we are in the BIOS. Okay. Don't know if you can see it, but we've got the R9 BIOS, which is the one we wanted. We made that update before. And we'll just come down to the boot menu and make sure we're booting from the hard drive. All right. And let's see if our PCI stuff is still, yep, that's still staying. So we're still X16 on all of our slots. So let's save and exit and see if we can boot to Windows. Now, this M.2 is the 1 terabyte M.2. It's a Samsung. I don't remember the exact models. That came out of the ASUS board. So it's got some ASUS drivers. I think one of the drivers on there is an ASUS LAN driver, which probably won't work with this one. And so we've got, I don't know if you can see that, but we've got some changeover going here where we're getting devices ready. So it's kind of like it's a new installation. And we'll see if we pop into Windows. I have a thumb drive here that has the drivers for this board on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just pop that into the USB slot. And I don't know if you can see right here. Yeah, you should be able to. But that is the activity light for this excuse me, for this drive. So that's a good sign. That's the sign that we get when the monitor powers off. And previously, when we used this board with the other CPU, we would get that blue monitor off sign to kind of pop off and on, pop off and on. So we'll see. We'll see where we are. All right, looks like we're going to go into Windows. As long as that doesn't freeze, we're in good shape. Now it stopped because I think the next thing we're going to see is Windows. Yay. All right. Very good. Look at this. Look at this. And look at this. This is the Gigabyte board doing what it was supposed to do the whole time, but it wouldn't do it. So let's be a friend and let's install a LAN driver right off the bat. So we're going to come down here to, yeah, this is the MW83 RPO. And there's the LAN driver right there. Now the Gigabyte drivers are not as nicely organized as the ASUS drivers. This one, the way to run setup on it is to run auto run. So we're going to run an auto run, install drivers. Yes, we want to install drivers. We want to install or update drivers. Yes, we do. We'll see if we can get those old ASUS drivers out. If we go back up here, and let's see, the next thing we want to do maybe is the, let's do the chipset driver. And is this one still working? Yes. All right, the driver for one or more devices failed to install correctly. Aha, good to know. All right, let's see if we can't get the driver out that was the network adapter. Okay, network adapters, scan for hardware change, doesn't have any. Well, let's come back to that, and we'll go ahead and get the chipset driver in. This one, in order to install it, you use setup chipset. I mean, that makes sense, but the nice thing with the ASUS is that all of them said ASUS setup. No matter what you were doing, it said ASUS setup. And this says you're about to install the following product, Intel chipset device software. It's strongly recommended that you exit all programs before continuing. Press next to continue or cancel to exit the setup program. We're going to press next. We're going to accept all that. We're going to do the installation, and it's going to do its thing. And let's see if we can just move it out of the way over here so we can watch it doing its thing. It stays right there for a long time. And we'll get this guy back up. We'll go back to the LAN. When this guy's finished installing, and this keeps flashing because it's reducing the number of other devices here as it installs the driver for it. There were about 5 or 6 more on the list that are not on the list right now because they've already been installed. Well, probably more than that. You can see the list getting shorter and shorter. And the drivers came from the Gigabyte website. So it's basically, okay, you've successfully installed the following products. You must restart this computer for the changes to take effect. We'll restart later. And let's go back in and give the LAN driver another try. Auto run, install drivers, yes. Installer update, yes. The drivers for one or more devices failed to install correctly. Okay, we've got that again. So let's go ahead. You can see we've got lots of drivers, lots of ports there. Let's go ahead and just reboot at this point and see if that doesn't fix our issue. I'm also interested to see how quickly it reboots. So let's restart and we'll see. when we were playing with this guy originally, so now we've gone into power saving mode again. When we were playing with this guy originally, he would take forever to start and or restart. Don't be fooled by this Gigabyte screen. This is just giving us a chance to go into the BIOS. Oh, there's a Windows symbol. This is promising. Less than 2 or 3 minutes would be nice. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. All right, let's see if somehow our LAN driver didn't install itself. We're going to go ahead and plug in to one of the LAN ports. There are 3 ports here. See a little light there. We're getting any joy in that one? Yes, we're plugged into LAN. So now we have the ability to come in and do a Windows update, and we'll let that kind of do its thing. Well, before we do, let's go to System, go to Power, and I want to not let this guy go to sleep. In fact, let's go to find a setting. Let's go to Power here. We've got a whole long list of powers, and I want to edit my power. Well, can I choose a power plan? What is that? Choose a power plan. I want the high performance plan. There we go. That's what I want. Favors performance, but may use more energy. Definitely want to use more energy. I'm good with that. And now screen and sleep. I want my screen never to go to sleep. Never to go to sleep. So now that we've done that, let's go ahead and do a Windows update. And it'll tell me, you're up to date. No, I don't think I'm up to date. It's got one right here that's a cumulative update preview for Windows 11 version 23 H2. Well, that's where we want to stay. But let's go ahead and just check for updates and see what else there is. We did Windows updates earlier on the ASUS machine. And so I guess we now have some updates that are non-motherboard specific, like in this case, the Windows Defender antivirus, anti-malware platform. So we'll let that run. If you missed it along the way, vMix does recommend not to run any antivirus, anti-malware, except what comes with Windows, Microsoft Defender, because it just takes too long. Okay, we do have the option for this cumulative one. Let's go ahead and take that one. Get the latest updates as soon as they're available. Don't think I want you to decide that for me. I'd like to decide that for myself. Thank you very much. Okay, well, there we go. We have got a machine that is now doing its thing like it should. So let's zoom out. Let's zoom over. And let's grab a light, because I don't like being in the dark. What about you? Okay, there's some light on the subject. So I can safely say with confidence that this guy is fixed until it breaks again. All right, so let's do this. Let's wrap up this part of the show. We'll go into the chat. I really want to see what you guys have to say, and we can go back and look at anything else. But let's get the outro here, and we'll be right back. All right. So we're in the post show. And Jesper was saying hi earlier, and I probably just ignored him. All right, and then we've got a question for Seamus Ford. Is it possible to build a machine that can withstand transport in a mobile shock-proof rack? Well, there's transport, and then there's transport. For example, people build PCs into OB vans and OB trailers all the time, and they're using shock mount racks for that, foam cushions or whatever they may be. So yeah, that's a regular thing. If we were to take this guy, he's going to live in a 4U rack mount case, which runs about 45 pounds. And we could put it in a gator case or something like that would have a shell around it and have some degree of shock mount, but I would not want to regularly transport that by a third party like UPS or FedEx or DHL or something like that. If it was going to be me transporting it in the back of my car, or putting it into a trailer or something like that where I knew where it was and had control over it, that would be different. If it was something that was going to be going by air, if I needed to check it at Delta, I wouldn't be crazy about that, because I wouldn't know how it would be handled. I mean, if you take something and you toss it 6 feet, I don't know if a shock mount rack is going to be able to withstand that shock, especially on a regular basis. So I would say yes, it's possible, but I wouldn't want to do it if I wasn't in control of it. Here's the backstory. We're doing a hybrid in-person and Zoom live seminars, need to change locations regularly. vMix is great. By the way, that's not how we spell vMix. vMix is great, but our machine is very fragile. Most are. But if you're going to be transporting it yourself, then a good sturdy rack mount case in a travel case, a gator case or a Pelican case, something like that, that's designed for a 4U rack, should work well. I mean, they make them where the ends come off. The front has a cap, the back has a cap, and it stays contained in its little cocoon, except the front and the back are open. So that's where you get your ventilation, front to back. If it's and this is again, it's a rack mount case, not a desktop case. I don't know of any transport cases that will take a desktop and leave it in the desktop. You can always get a big Pelican case with the removable foam portions for a desktop and place it down in there. But again, that's just the case. It's the internals that you have to work with. When we ship these systems via UPS to our customers after we build them, we're taking those expandable foam cushioning devices. It's a little teeny packet like this. You unfold it, it ends up being large size, and we activate the foam in it and then put it in the case, and it wraps around everything in the case. Now you could get one of those and do that and use the same one over and over again until it decayed and it was time for a new one. But I think you would have to, in order to know that it was going to transport okay, you would have to take some extra special precautions. And the other special precaution would be to have a backup machine. What if you get someplace and your machine stops working and you don't have time to troubleshoot? I mean, why did it stop working? Did a little teeny connector inside come off? That can do the thing. It can do the thing. Let's see. Gunner's here. Good to see you, sir. Otis is here. Michael Graves is ringing in. That's true. That's true. Can I light up the case? Otis, there is no case. But I can, let's see, I can direct this light onto it a little bit more. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but it just shows the motherboard. The case is in a box over here on the shelf. I can't get to it right now. This is a voice of experience here. The heavier the rack, the more likely it will be mishandled or handled using a forklift. Yeah. I am wondering if there's anyone that's doing vMix in a mobile way. Rich, are you still here? Seamus, Rich does he does jet ski racing, and he flies all over the country with his gear. I'm not sure exactly what's in his kit these days, but I think he generally carries everything he needs. I don't think he does anything in the cloud, but the cloud's a good option. It all depends. The research did about the cloud instance is that you need a massive upload speed. The massive upload speed would be to get all of your cameras to the cloud. Now, if you had a vMix instance living in the cloud and you were going to live stream from there, then you don't have to worry about bandwidth because it's already in the cloud. It would just be the sources that you would need to get into the vMix production. And you would do that probably via SRT. So, yep. There could be sync latency issues with the Zoom meeting, possibly, but there's ways around that. There's ways around that. Oh, Michael, you missed the early part when I was doing the overhead. I've got an overhead camera. Let's see. There it is right there. Let's see if we can zoom in. You see the table? We can zoom out. We can zoom really in. Have a little trouble focusing if there's nothing really to look at. So yes, but you're right. For the setback here, I did need one. So true. Otis says most virtual machine is robust depending on the tier you choose to rent. Well, that's true. That's true. And obviously there's a set spec that you want to meet in terms of CPU, GPU, RAM, the same basic requirements that you have for vMix. So Dave says the issue was the CPU. The issue was the CPU. The $1,500 CPU did not work. And the Intel startup a conversation about a return website is down. How about that? There you go. I can do a mean tenderloin. Sandy brought me some fillets the other day. Oh, golly, they were good. All right. I always love it when Michael posts. My former employer at one point had a product that was a 3X 3RU chassis. Oh, that was three 3RU chassis. One with 12X SAS disc. It was about 250 pounds in a shock mounted rack case. Nobody tossed that around without a forklift. That virtually ensured it would be handled by a forklift. And the forks did go into the case more than once. Yeah. Yeah. What can I say? John's here. That's what I'll say. But it's tough. It's tough when you don't have control. All right, so Otis says, I would use the virtual machine, vMix and Zoom, to handle all the remote callers and local vMix for the on-site host. Seamus, you and Otis need to get together and chat about this. Ed says, a few years ago, we had a wooden road case that had about an inch and a half of foam surrounding another rack unit, which was inside the case with a rack mount computer and P2 record deck with an ASUS audio mixer. How did it survive? We took the hard drives out every time it was shipped. Well, today that probably wouldn't be necessary with the M.2 solid state drive. I think they're pretty secure. I mean, I don't think anything about shipping a system I never worry about the M.2s. The question is, Ed, did you do a backup system? I mean, shipping is shipping, but shipping is potential damage, potential lost or stolen, potential late. I am not a big fan of shipping something that either can't be replaced easily or doesn't have a time to get there. There you go. There you go. And, you know, and even then, you got to have hardware to put it on. Let's see how we're doing back here. Hear a lot of buzzing and whirring. Let's see. Pending restart, restart now. All right, let's see if we can restart now. Another difference that I noticed between the ASUS motherboard and the Gigabyte motherboard doesn't have a pump power socket, an AIO power. It does have the fan power, but as you I don't know if you can hear, but the fans have what appear to be two speeds, on and off, and you get all the fan power. And it should, like when we were doing the ASUS before, it would ramp up very nicely and kind of stay in the background. But this one is, you know, on or off. But it is a workstation motherboard. So you're going to assume that it's going to be loud already because there are going to be tons of fans in there. And this is just going to be a couple more fans. Now, this is kind of a moderate fan level now. Again, I don't know if you can hear that, but let me scoot on over here. That's a moderate fan level as the system reboots after a Windows update. And it's hung right here. And I don't know if that means it's about to go into Windows or if we have an issue. Now, this is a restart after doing a Windows update to some things. So I'm going to leave it here for a little bit. But previously, my recollection is this particular Gigabyte motherboard didn't like to restart. It would rather I'd wait 10. I think one time I waited a half an hour like this just to make sure it didn't have something else going on in the background. And it was just frozen in this position. Now it's just a restart thing. It's not like it's frozen in this position while it's on and doing something, but still, it's not a warm, fuzzy feeling. Anyway, now the fans turn themselves down, but there's no change on the screen. and we don't have any debug lights, or again, the ASUS board had the nice little 2-digit debug code screen. Now we're going up and down and up and down. We would assume something's happening, but we don't really know. It's a new product. We'll find out. We'll find out. Well, guys, it was a treat hanging out with you today. I'm going to continue on with this, and we'll see where we go with it. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. It was fun. It's always fun. And I will catch you. I won't catch you next week. Won't catch you next week. I'm going to be on the road next week, but I will catch you the week after that, and we'll stay in touch. Have a great week. And let's see, how do we gracefully get out of this? A graceful exit. Here we are. Here's a graceful exit.